Most people think their electricity bill is high because they use too much power, but that's not actually the main reason. You can turn off lights, unplug devices, try to save energy, and your bill still feels expensive. That's because your electricity bill isn't just based on how much energy you use, it's based on how an entire system operates behind the scenes. And once you understand that system, you'll realize why your bill feels high, even when your habits don't change. One of the most frustrating things about electricity bills is how inconsistent they feel. Some months are reasonable, and then suddenly, one month is much higher. And it doesn't always match what you did. That's because your bill is influenced by factors outside your home. Weather, grid demand, fuel prices. You're connected to a much bigger system than you think. So even if your usage stays similar, your cost can change. Electricity is different from almost every other resource. It has to be produced at the exact moment it's used. There's no large-scale storage buffer to rely on. That means supply and demand must match in real time, every second. If demand increases suddenly, generation must increase instantly. If it doesn't, the system becomes unstable. That's why utilities maintain extra capacity, not for average use, but for peak conditions. And maintaining that extra capacity is expensive. That cost is built into your bill. Demand is one of the most important and least understood parts of electricity pricing. It's not about how much energy you use over time, it's about how much you use at once. Think about a typical evening. You get home, turn on the AC, start cooking, plug in devices, everything happens at the same time. Now multiply that by millions of homes. That creates a massive spike in demand. The grid has to be built to handle that moment, even if it only lasts a few hours. That means larger infrastructure, more generation capacity, and higher system costs. You're not paying for average usage, you're paying for the system being able to handle peaks. Electricity prices change throughout the day. During low demand hours, cheaper sources can supply most of the energy. But during peak hours, utilities must rely on more expensive power plants. These are called peaker plants. They're fast but costly. And even though they may only run a few hours a day, they significantly impact pricing. That's why electricity in the evening can cost more than the same electricity at night. It's not about the energy itself, it's about when it's used. Here's something most people never think about. You're not just paying for electricity. You're paying for the entire system that delivers it. Power plants, transmission lines, substations, transformers, all of this infrastructure has to be built, maintained, and upgraded constantly. Even if your usage is low, that system still has to exist. That's why your bill includes fixed costs, not just usage-based charges. You're paying for access, not just consumption. Now think about extreme situations. Heat waves, cold snaps, holidays, these events push demand higher than normal. Utilities respond by activating more expensive resources. That raises system costs, and those costs are reflected in your bill. That's why some months feel unusually high. It's not just what you did, it's what everyone did at the same time. Electricity prices are also affected by the energy market. Fuel costs, especially natural gas, play a major role. If fuel prices increase, electricity becomes more expensive to produce. That increase gets passed through the system. So your bill is influenced by global factors, not just your home. That's another reason costs can feel unpredictable. So what actually lowers your bill? Not just using less, but using energy smarter. Using electricity during off-peak hours, managing HVAC usage, avoiding large demand spikes, these strategies reduce your impact on the system. And over time, that reduces your cost. Here's something a lot of people feel, but don't fully understand. Electricity bills often feel unfair. You try to save energy, but your bill doesn't drop as much as you expect. That's because part of your bill isn't flexible. You're paying for access to the system, not just the electricity you use. Even if you use less energy, the grid still has to be available to you at any moment. That means infrastructure, maintenance, and reliability costs are always there. So your bill doesn't move linearly with your behavior. That's why it can feel disconnected, even when you're doing the right things. Another frustrating thing people notice is that saving energy doesn't always save as much money as expected. And the reason comes back to what actually drives cost. If most of your bill is coming from HVAC, then turning off lights won't make a big difference. If your highest cost is happening during peak hours, reducing usage at other times won't help much. So it's not just about using less, it's about reducing the right type of usage. This is where most people get it wrong. They focus on small, visible things instead of the big drivers behind the system. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The way we use electricity is changing. Electric vehicles, for example, are adding entirely new demand to the grid. Charging one EV might not seem like much, but when entire neighborhoods start charging at night, demand patterns shift. That puts new pressure on infrastructure. And over time, it changes how electricity is priced. The grid isn't just reacting to today, it's constantly adapting to the future. And those changes will continue to affect your bill. One of the most important things to understand is this. Electricity pricing is designed to influence behavior. Utilities don't just want to supply energy. They want to control when and how it's used. That's why you see things like time-of-use pricing, peak hour rates, and incentives for off-peak usage. These aren't random. They're designed to spread out demand and reduce stress on the grid. Because if everyone uses electricity at the same time, the system becomes more expensive to operate. So pricing isn't just about cost, it's about shaping the entire system. At the end of the day, your electricity bill isn't just about how much energy you use. It's about demand, timing, infrastructure, and the system behind it all. Once you understand that, you stop guessing and start making better decisions. Because lowering your bill isn't about doing more, it's about understanding more.